This is March 14th, 2003. Tranmere 3, Cardiff 3. By this time, I'm in the second year of a 4-year degree that it's becoming increasingly obvious that I need to drop out of. My girlfriend at the time lived in Knaresborough, sort of near Leeds, and she had gone back to her family home a few days before, and I'd gone with her. And the plan was for me to go with her and then drive back to Birkenhead for the Tranmere game on the Saturday. The problem was I'd completely forgotten that it was a Friday night. The game was on a Friday night, and I only realised this at sort of 5 o'clock on the Friday evening. So I suddenly realised I have to pack up. I've got this sort of 2-hour drive, race across the M62 to make it. Hadn't eaten, so I ended up buying one of those like horrendous burgers from the food stand at the Cop end of the main stand, which I can remember even how awful it was. But yeah, just I think it was an amazing game, as sort of people have documented before. It was a real like just two good teams really going at each other trying to win, and Earnshaw scores, we equalise. Earnshaw scores again, we equalise quite late on. I can still see Gary Jones hooking in what I was convinced was going to be this late winner, and just the place absolutely erupted. It was one of those, like, it wasn't like the stadium was sort of full packed out or we were like closely packed together. But I remember like jumping around, and there was just people who didn't know were like hugging and like jumping up and down, and it was just delirium. And then 60 seconds later, Earnshaw scores again, and it's 3-3, and it was just that sort of, it epitomized what sport can do to you, and like the good and the bad. So there was the absolute ecstasy of that Gary Jones goal going in, the crowd erupting, and then just the utter dejection of not winning. And I can remember walking out of that and just feeling really just utter dejection, really feeling like we'd missed an opportunity. And there were a lot of fine margins in that season, because we went on that amazing run at the end. And I remember a few weeks after the Cardiff game, and I remember we'd gone to Luton and got a 0-0 draw in a game that we had chances to win. And at the time we were trying to catch QPR, and we were walking out of Kenilworth Road, and everyone in the away end, we were sort of ecstatic that QPR had only drawn with Cardiff again. And then as we're walking out, this sort of the news starts to filter through everyone that QPR have got a late goal against Cardiff. And to now they've gained 2 points enough, so with us only drawing this game with Luton and them having won. So it just felt like, the what happened at the end of the game with Cardiff was happening, then the end of that game with QPR, and it was just like we're always the bridesmaids, and it just felt like it wasn't quite meant to be. And then of course we end that season just 1 point behind Cardiff. We're behind Cardiff, which just sort of feels like horrible twist of fate. But I don't know, like we had that great run at the end of the season. I really liked that team. There were a lot of very likable players in that team. Weren't necessarily sort of the greatest footballers in the world. Tyrone Loran and people like that, just like a destroyer in the middle of the pitch. But like people loved him. I loved him, and it was just like felt like we had Ray Mathias was in charge. David Kelly had come back to his system. We had this great run of form. We had some really good players. Hume was coming through. I think Kumas had gone by this point, hadn't he? But Hume was coming through. Ryan Taylor was coming through. It was a good team, and it just felt like a team that was going places. I mean, to like a lot of people, I think. But with the run of form that we were on towards the end of the season, I feel absolutely adamant that if we'd got to the playoffs, we would have had the momentum to kind of go it through. But of course, we never got there. We never got the chance to find out.
And that's because this game effectively stops that from happening.
Yeah.
Tranmere went on a 15-game unbeaten run at the end of that season, which was then added to by a further 3 games at the start of the next season. 18 games in the league, being their longest ever unbeaten run, and as you correctly say, they finished the season on fire with 5 successive wins: 1-0 over Wycombe and Notts County, 4-0 against Northampton. There was the infamous rearranged Mansfield game, which Tranmere won 3-1 after the guy climbed on the floodlights and then the cowshed roof, causing the initial match to be abandoned. And then there was, from 2-0 down, a 3-2 win at Stockport on the last day of the season. But sadly, the damage done by that Cardiff draw, but the ecstasy that you talk about at Gary Jones scoring that 89th minute goal was based on the fact that people believed that this was a team heading for the top 6.
Exactly right. And it's like I say, it's a team that deserved to be there. I remember going to that the Stockport game the last day of the season. I'm pretty sure it was mathematically impossible to get into the playoffs back then, but like we sort of packed out the away end, and it was like it's almost like sort of a tribute to how appreciative everyone was of what the team had achieved that year and how well they played. I'm pretty sure, I'd need to check, but I think we were 2-0 down in the Stockport game, and then we definitely won it 3-2. I think we were 2-0 down possibly at half-time and came back to win it. And it was just like this sort of really fun party atmosphere, even though there was absolutely nothing riding on it. But yeah, it was a real missed opportunity not hitting the playoffs that year.